This is for the free thinkers, the curious beings that swim upstream, who see possibilities, not problems, that learn from the past, live by the present, and create the future. This is the I Love Ugly audio show.
On this episode, we sit down with one of the most well-respected figures in world rugby, Sir Graham Henry. For those that don't know him, he is credited with rebuilding the All Blacks legacy into what it is today, and is regarded as one of the most successful sports coaches in history. Now, for those that aren't interested in rugby, I know what you're thinking, that you don't want to listen to me talk about rugby for an hour, and neither did I. So I took a completely different angle to avoid just talking about rugby. We lift the hood on how he managed to build one of the greatest sports teams in history, and why and how he wanted to be the greatest of all time, why setting audacious goals is so essential, and why mental health has become so prevalent in today's society. This episode is a goldmine of valuable information for sports fans, leaders, entrepreneurs, or anybody wanting to build an influential culture or make something of themselves. It kicks in around the 5-minute mark where we really start to get going, and it's going to take you for a journey. Enjoy. Graham Henry, welcome to the show. I can appreciate you're a busy man, especially with the World Cup going on, and yeah, all the pretty diabolical at the moment, I can imagine. But so appreciate your time. But can you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing with yourself nowadays that All Blacks is kind of no longer in your life?
What am I doing?
Yeah, what are you doing with yourself nowadays?
I'm trying to enjoy life.
Yeah.
As much as possible. Getting into trouble sometimes trying to enjoy life.
Yeah.
No, I speak a lot.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Not as much as I used to. So I'm on the circuit, if you like. I do some consulting with some companies in town. And I've just been consulting with the Canadian rugby team. It was a freebie, by the way. But because I know the coach, and he asked me if I'd have a look at what they were doing. We've got a place in Waiheke. We've got a place here. They're just sitting in right now. And we've got 5 grandkids, 3 kids and 5 grandkids. So
keep you busy.
That keeps us busy.
Yeah.
We do a lot of travel.
Yeah.
So we've been to Alaska this year. So we did our first cruise. There was a lot of old people on this cruise. So we did our first cruise from Vancouver to Alaska. We're going to Europe next year. Going back to Japan in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
So, life's good. Enjoying
life? Nah, that's great. So consulting, when you're consulting with businesses, and what are you consulting them on? Is it more leadership stuff, culture stuff?
It's mainly people development. Yeah, a bit about culture, but mainly young guys, young people, and just talking to them about what they're doing and how they're developing, and just my thoughts about that, and the culture of the company, and working together, and getting the best out of each other.
Yeah. So do you feel now, just after your experience as a coach, you have the ability to, say, go into an organisation and pretty quickly identify what the problems are?
Oh no, you don't do that. Like, well, usually I've talked to most companies in New Zealand now, and you're just talking about the All Blacks, because pretty topical, and people are very interested in what their culture's like. A group of us changed the All Black culture a few years ago, and so we just talk about that. It's a set of behaviours that the All Blacks live by. That's the culture, and you talk about how that's led by the team and the leadership group. You talk about people development, handling anxiety, handling stress, handling expectation. And you're using the All Blacks as an example, but you learn those things. Like, I was in education for 25 years. Last 10 years as a headmaster of Kelson Boys High School, that you know of. And it's pretty similar. It's you're trying to ensure the guys enjoy that experience. Believe it or not, enjoy their educational experience, develop not only academically but develop holistically. So they leave school as pretty positive people. That's what you're trying to do, and it's the same with the All Blacks. Basically, they grow as people when they're in the All Blacks. Obviously you want them to be very good rugby players, but you also want to grow as people and take ownership of the team and take leadership opportunity and that sort of thing. And if you can grow the people, you can grow the team, basically, and it's the same in any business. So if you've got a group of people who have taken ownership of that business and they're growing and getting better, that business is going to improve. I guess it's similar to your business.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that was going to be one of my questions as well, is you know, you go from headmastering a school of, I don't know what it was, 1,000 pupils. Obviously there's a lot of moving parts, to transitioning into coaching the All Blacks, you know, a group of professional men that are there to do a job with pressures of, you know, the whole nation watching them and expecting a lot of them. So what was that transition like, going from, you know, being a headmaster into the, obviously there's a lot of steps before that, but what's the transition like and what's the similarities? I know you touched on it a little bit, but if you could kind of dive a little bit deeper.
Well, I was in education for 25 years, but while I was there, I was coaching rugby.
Yeah.
Amateur.
Yeah.
The game went professional in '96. That's the year I left Kelston Boys High School.
Yeah. And was that a passion of yours? You were just passionate about rugby?
For sure.
Yeah.
So I was passionate about the game, but I was passionate about coaching. I was a phys ed teacher, right? And it was an extension of the job, basically. So I coached rugby and cricket at school when I was first teaching. And I got very passionate about rugby coaching. I was ambitious at it. And so I was an amateur coach, coached Auckland in the early 90s. And to get there, I coached Auckland Grammar School, Auckland University, and some junior rep teams, under 20 Bs, As. So I'd been going on for 25 years before I became a professional coach.
Yeah.
So it was part of what I did.
Yeah.
And I was ambitious. I wanted to be the All Black coach. Sounds very arrogant, but I wanted to be All Black coach in the 1970s. I finished up All Black coach in 2004, so it was a wee bit of a wait.
Yeah.
And you know, so you learn about rugby coaching and coaching men and running a school at the same time.
Yeah.
The transition from an amateur coach to a professional coach was pretty seamless, because I was coaching Auckland in '95. The game went professional in '96. I was coaching the Blues in '96. So it was just another job. I was still coaching Auckland, but I was coaching the Blues in professional rugby. And then I went to Wales and coached the Welsh and the British Isles, the British Lions. And then came back in 2004, got the All Blacks. So there was a bit of a gap between finishing secondary school as a headmaster in '96 to coaching the All Blacks in 2004. What's the difference? I think you're there for everybody to see. You know, there's no hiding when you're All Black coach. The results are obvious, and the way the guys play is obvious.
Yeah.
Not nearly as a responsible job as running a school.
Wow.
I had 1,250 boys at Kelston Boys High School, 110 staff. That's a big job.
That's a big job.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of responsibility, because you...
And boys. Young boys. So.
Well, yes, no girls there at Kelston Boys High School. But, you know, that is a very big responsibility.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that responsibility, enjoyed that job. But I had a passion for rugby coaching, and also they paid you a bit more.
Yeah.
To be fair. And so when I left, I was the headmaster at Kelston in '96, coached the Blues and Auckland.
Wow.
The game was professional then. I had to make a decision, which wasn't an easy decision to make. And so I became a full-time professional coach in '97. Right, I got that right, I think, in '97. And I had a big learning curve once I became a professional coach. I wanted to coach the All Blacks then. They didn't think I was good enough, which is fine. I went overseas and coached the Welsh for 3.5 seasons, and also coached the British and Irish Lions. So I was in Wales from '98 to 2002, coached the Lions in 2001. Those two experiences were fabulous for me.
How so?
How's that? Well, I had to change.
Yeah.
You know, the way I was coaching, or the way I was managing the team, if you like, as head coach, wasn't right for 2000 was probably right in 1980, and maybe right in 1990, but it wasn't okay going forward because the young guys you coach change. You know, they're different personalities. They go through a different education system. They want more say in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like you could tell young men in the 1970s and 1980s what to do, and they'd, yes sir, we'll do that. But you had to get them involved in their own coaching. So that's the thing I learned from the Welsh experience. It wasn't about me. It was about them and getting them involved and running their teams.
Yeah.
So that's how we changed. We changed from a coach-driven environment to a team-driven environment where there was, say, 6 oldies like me and 7 players, and they joined together and ran the team.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about a team-driven environment. And all the guys in the team were consulted, right? And so the big change was they took ownership.
Yeah.
Young men took ownership of the team they played in. And that wasn't the case in the years prior. So that's the big change.
Interesting. And then going back to goals, and you mentioned that it may sound arrogant, but you wanted to be an All Blacks coach. What's your view on goals and goal setting, and how important do you think they are? And were you always a goal-orientated person?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think the short answer.
Because a lot of people don't like. I've found a lot of people don't like to say, be out, open about their goals because they do feel it's arrogant. But I feel it's. I think
a bit of obsession is good.
Yeah.
You're probably obsessed by your business.
Yeah.
And making it successful.
Yeah, you live and breathe it. You have to.
Yeah, exactly. And so you have little challenges on the way. You run over the top of those things. If you're obsessed and you're passionate about it.
So true.
Whereas some other people may get tripped over by those little challenges and say it's too hard. Right? And so I think being obsessed, my wife calls me obsessed, probably Andrew does too, obsessed with rugby coaching helped me get over some adversity. Because when you want to be All Black coach and you want to try and be the best coach in the world, and that's what you try and do,
Yeah, of course.
whether you make it or not, it's probably immaterial, and you shouldn't be judging that anyway. But if you want to be the best, you're going to have to put up with some difficult times.
Yeah, indeed.
And you learn from. If you don't learn from those times, you're buggered, for want of a better statement.
Yeah.
So, I think obsession or passionate about what you're doing is absolutely critical if you're going to make it, because there is going to be some times when life's bloody difficult.
Yeah, I think that's some sound advice. And have you found that the players that you've coached and that have been in your environments, the ones that have really risen above the others, are the ones that are more goal orientated or are driven by their obsession to be the best?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. But the guys who, probably the most successful players when I was coaching, like McCaw and Carter and Conrad Smith and Brad Thorne and those sort of guys, they had other things going on in their lives.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just rugby. So they had other interests, like Richie McCaw was a pilot. Like he flew gliders initially.
Yeah, I saw that in the docker.
Yeah, gliders and then planes and now helicopters. Yeah. Daniel Carter's always been involved in fashion. He's got an interest in that. People want to use him to front their product. So he's got a good business alongside his rugby playing business. So the Dan Carter model, if you like, that's probably not the right word, image, help me, is probably, it's very important for him. And he's very successful at promoting himself. Conrad Smith was a lawyer, right? Didn't play any rep rugby of note before he became an All Black, through the grades. So I just think the guys who are the most successful are passionate, but also passionate about self-improvement, the holistic thing.
Yes.
Development as a person. And I think that's been pretty critical.
Great. Yeah, that's a real good segue into the conversation, because obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know when you started to take over and implement, culture change, you guys hired a psychologist, I believe, for the All Blacks. or someone, was it a psychologist you guys hired just to help with the players' mindsets? And
No, there's a guy named Gilbert Anoka, I think he's the guy you're probably talking about.
Yep.
Like Gilbert started with me. He had a wee bit to do with the All Blacks prior to me.
So working with you personally?
No, working with the team.
Yes, yep.
Work with me personally, but work with the team. He was in the management group. He's still there, and he was another Fazetta. Fazettas are taken over the world.
Yeah.
And he did a psychology degree at Canterbury University part time while he's a school teacher, and got into sports psychology. Played volleyball for New Zealand, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Reasonable rugby player. And so he got involved in with us. Wayne Smith and Steve Hansen and myself and Darren Shand and the rest of the management group and the senior players in changing that culture. And he was the guy who drove it. Like I was there to coach the game.
Yep. But you're obviously very pro it.
Oh, hell yes. You know, from those experiences in Wales and with the British and Irish Lions, I knew change had to happen. I knew I had to change. So he was one of the first guys I wanted to appoint as in the management team. So he drove the cultural change. His responsibility was the development of people and driving that cultural change. And other things, but initially that was his job.
And what were some of the key culture changes that made from what he made, and then what was kind of going on prior that you guys really wanted to shift, or especially what he really wanted to shift?
Well, simply and briefly, we wanted to change it from a coach-driven environment to a team-driven environment.
Okay.
We didn't like some of the things that were happening in the team.
Yep.
And so we wanted to change those things. So we got together a group of senior players and senior management, which became the leadership group.
Yep.
And those people set the purpose.
Yeah.
And the purpose in my time was to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
All right. So you don't talk to people about that.
Yeah.
Only it's internal, if you like.
Yeah.
And then we say, okay, if you want to be the greatest All Black team of all time, what do you need to do for that to happen?
Yeah.
So from that leadership group, we talked about humility.
Yeah.
Which really means you keep your feet on the ground, you realise where you're at.
Yeah.
And you realise that you need to improve if you're going to be the GOAT.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Yes. So humility was about better never stops. Striving for self-improvement.
Yeah, we've got that on the wall in our offices.
Yeah, so if you walk into the All Black camp, you can feel that drive for improvement.
Yeah.
Team improvement, individual improvement. Integrity was one of the cultural values, if you like. Do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Don't bullshit.
Yeah.
Make sure it happens.
Yep.
Team first. Obviously. So, the black jersey with a silver fern is very special.
Yes.
And to value that jersey, and whoever's worn that jersey before you, and your job to be the GOAT was to fill that jersey up more than it's ever been filled up before.
Yeah.
So really a great emphasis on the why the team was very important and why the team had to come first. And your job in enhancing that jersey. The haka was part of that.
Yep.
So while I was there, they introduced a second haka. We introduced a second haka. So we got a Maori tutor in to help us, who was helping us anyway, with our with kamati, making sure we did it right.
Yep.
And then they introduced a second haka, which represented all the different cultures in the team, all the different nationalities, if you like. So Maori, European, Tongan, Fijian, Samoan. I think I've covered it all. And so the boys talked about what was important in their culture, and we incorporated that into a new haka called kaparo pongu, which you probably see today.
Yes.
Often. And often that's a team call, which haka they use. So the kamati was a haka that has been there for 120 years. the new haka was developed in, I think, 2006. I could be wrong, 5, 6. So it's only been here for 10 years or so. So, and it's very special for the boys because they know what they're doing in those hakas. They know what it means, what it represents.
Yeah.
You know, and the second haka. So that's part of this team-driven culture.
Interesting.
You know, team first, and the haka is part of that. Solution focused.
Yeah.
Find the solution. Don't have any excuses, right?
Yep.
If you can't find the solution, there'll be people there who can help you find the solution.
Absolutely.
Team driven, so that's those cultural things, those things I've just said, are driven by the team. They take responsibility. So that was set up by that leadership group in 2004.
Wow.
Okay, that's fine-tuned all the time, and then they discuss it with the players and get buy-in, and that becomes how you live.
Yeah, of course.
But that leadership group meets on a very regular basis. Off-season, when they're not together, probably 4 or 5 times. When they're together every week, 2 or 3 times a week, and they run the team. So it's not Steve Hansen running the team.
Yep.
It's this group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, the player buy-in is what you need in order for the whole thing to operate. And did you find that when these new set of values were introduced into the team, there's a group of players or certain players that didn't really like it, or they were resistant to change? Because I know that you're also very big on change and saying that change is important. So we're very...
Well, if you don't change, you don't get better.
Yeah.
If you carry on the same, you're going to get the same result. So if you...
Yes.
If you want to be the GOAT, you've got to change.
Yeah.
So, no, like we had some initial differences with some of the guys in the leadership group. So initially, the leadership group of the All Blacks was voted on by the players.
Yeah.
And we had too many leaders, and we changed it pretty quickly because it wasn't gelling. So we appointed the leaders with a discussion with the captain, and that was the best thing we'd ever did.
Wow. So
we appointed people who we thought would lead well, and they probably led in their franchises and their provincial teams anyway. And once we got the right people leading the group, it was reasonably plain sailing. As long as you kept on winning. When you lost, it was a bit of a problem.
yeah.
You got a bit of a tension when you lost, but that was part of it. And every 3 or 4 tests, we would set the objectives, strategy, and so it was real time stuff.
Yep.
So it was always in front of the guys. You know, this is what is expected. So it wasn't something that was dreamed up in 2004, put in the filing cabinet and forgotten about it. It was on the walls. And revisited every 2 or 3 tests. So we chunked the season and readdressed. And that was our backbone, that culture and purpose. But if something in the culture wasn't functioning as well as it should be, that would be a focus for the next 2 tests.
Wow.
And strategy to beat Australia or the Springboks or whoever.
Yeah.
And, you know, anything that we thought would enhance the group. So it was constant real time stuff.
Yeah.
And which I think was very important.
Yeah.
So as that grew, you got a large number of the players taking ownership. You know, the leadership group was made up of 7 players. We also had guys who were in charge of certain areas of the game, like the line out of the scrum or defence or attack or whatever. And so other guys took responsibility for that with coaches and so on. And we also had individual operating units in the team, 7 of them. 7? Yeah. And they were led by somebody different from the leadership group. So an individual operating unit might have been the back 3. What I mean by that, the fullback and 2 wingers. Right? And they'd meet once a week and say, how can we enhance our performance for the weekend?
Wow.
And somebody would lead that. And the group of, say, we're the World Cup group now, 31. There might have been 5 in each of those groups. So the centres the halves, and so on. So constantly trying to give them responsibility to grow people. So they took ownership of the team. And I think it's just like any good business.
Yeah.
The more ownership people will take, the better they will perform. So the more skin they've got in the action, the better they will perform.
Absolutely, and it will just compound if everybody's working on themselves and taking on board collectively. That's going to produce huge results as well. So
exactly. So you know, so that's how the All Blacks function basically.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think a lot of people probably don't realise that. They just think they train hard, go on the field, do the business, and they're just good at the game. But there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things which they practice in private, which they
well, recently they changed the purpose. Recently, a few years ago, to the best sporting team in the world.
Yeah, I love that.
And nobody knew about that either till a reporter got into their team room in London somewhere.
Yeah.
And saw it on the wall, which they were a bit upset about. But again, you know, best sporting team in the world. How do we become the best sporting team in the world?
Yeah.
How do you become the best clothing manufacturer or best menswear store in the world?
Yeah.
And so it focuses people.
Yes.
That purpose. And they've been nominated for the Laureate Team of the Year 4 times. So the best team in the world 4 times, and they've won it once, and no other sporting team has done that. So they're getting there.
Wow. That's,
But you don't get there unless the players and the management walk the talk, walk the culture, live by the culture.
Yeah.
And in the main, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
You have a few hiccups, which always get in front page of the newspaper. But, you know, those things are going to happen.
Yeah, of course.
Just in our business, in the rugby business, it gets front page of the papers. If it happens in your business, nobody knows about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the whole weight of a nation isn't on our shoulders, but for the All Blacks, it is, unfortunately.
Exactly.
And did you feel as a head coach that you had to carry a lot of this pressure and be a real example to the rest of the team? Because I know that the chokehold of most businesses and sports teams is the leader. You know, if they're slumped and they're not living these values, then there's going to be a trickle down effect. But did you feel for yourself there's a pressure?
Yeah, you're quite good at this stuff, aren't you? Huh? You've done it before.
No, I've only done 4 of them.
Oh, okay.
No, you did
I'm just
right.
Interested. So I think part of the deal is that when you're in those positions, you start thinking pretty bloody seriously about how you do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so your self-analysis, I think, is very important. So how do you become the best you can become? I know it sounds pretty arrogant, but that's the deal.
I ask myself that every day.
So that's the deal, you know, and if you stuff up as a role model, because you are the role model, one of them, it's very hard to resurrect that, to get that back. Because you might have done that for 2 years and you've been pretty squeaky and you've done a good job. And all of a sudden you do something you shouldn't do, and you just lose it. You lose that respect. You lose because you're not walking the talk. You're not doing what you expect other people to do. So I think being a role model is hugely important.
Yeah. And do you work a lot on your mindset, and how do you do it? Just keeping your mind and just sharp and focused.
Yeah, I think for me, I had to exercise a lot.
Yeah.
So the more I exercised, the better I felt.
Yeah.
And the better I felt mentally. So I think there's a very strong connection between the physical and the mental.
Yes, I agree.
And even your diet, particularly early in the day, when you want to be on the job and sharp. And doing a bloody good job and connecting well with people. I think that's very important. Like obviously you work hard, do the business, you know, and the harder you work, the better you are, I think. But just getting yourself in a physical and a mental state that you can function at the best you can, I think it's very important. And I wonder how many people actually think about that.
Yeah, I don't think a lot do.
Yeah, so, I think those sort of things are very important. Having good mentors,
Yeah.
having an assessment system that assesses you and how you're doing the job.
Wow.
So we had an assessment system in the All Blacks where the management would assess each other.
And you guys were just transparent and honest? Just said
Well,
how it
it
was.
wasn't always easy.
Yeah, it's not.
No, it's not easy. So we finished up having a system: keep doing, stop doing, start doing.
Yeah.
So keep doing these things, stop doing these things, and think about doing these things. And I think that was a way of softening it.
Yeah.
Because you just needed to get a good result on that.
Yes.
Mentors were very important to me. I had some very good people that I could connect with.
Yeah, who were some of your mentors?
Well, John Graham, who was
Yep.
an ex-All Black. Have you
Yep.
heard of John Graham?
Yes,
He's
yep.
no longer with us,
Yep.
sadly. Who was headmaster of Auckland Grammar School.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was a young teacher at Auckland Grammar School. I was in the 8th form at Auckland Grammar School.
Yeah.
Right? And so there was a lot of us in the 8th form. Guys in their 20s, mid-20s, late 20s, who John Graham assisted greatly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those people became secondary school headmasters, principals, probably
Yep.
the right term. There would have been, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 young people when I was at grammar went on and become secondary school principals. He taught me at school, John Graham.
Yeah.
He asked me to come and teach in his school. He gave me opportunity, just like the rugby, just like the All Blacks, giving young people opportunity to develop as an individual, not only as a sportsman and an athlete,
Yes.
but as a person. And John Graham did those things.
Yeah.
And he did those things for me. The best phone call I ever had was when he rang me and said, would you like to come and work in my school? I didn't know at the time, but looking back, it was very important.
Yeah.
And there's other guys. Also, I think just concentrating on the big rocks is important.
Yeah.
What's the things that are going to make this business the best it can be? The GOAT.
Yeah.
The best in the world.
Yeah.
Right? And I think if you're trying to touch too many things, it dissipates the effectiveness.
Yeah, agree.
So what are the big rocks that are going to make this business really tick?
Yeah.
Don't get involved in sideshows.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a family show, is it?
No, not at all.
Don't get involved in things that don't matter.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people spend too much time talking about other people and,
Yeah.
I can't stand that rubbish.
Yeah.
So just that sort of stuff. So I think you need a personal philosophy of how you're going to do a job.
Yeah.
And you think very, very seriously about that. Self-analysis. Where am I at? What can I get better? Ask your guys you work with. Ask your mentors. Be prepared to change. If you don't change, you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
I could go on.
Yeah. Nah, this is honestly golden. I know our audience is going to get a lot of value. I'm loving this. So, yeah. What advice would you give to someone that is, they do want to be the GOAT in their field, whether it be sports, business, or whatever, and they know that they need to seek some advice from some certain people, some mentors. Like how would you recommend these people go about seeking these people out? Because a lot of people do have blocks about that, which I find interesting.
Yeah, I think the first thing, I think you've got to find a field that you're passionate about and go for it.
Yeah.
You're here for a few years. So you might be here for 90 years. I'm buggered if I know.
Yeah.
But you're here for a few years. Might as well make it good.
Yeah.
Might be the best you can be.
Yeah.
They might not tick everybody's, might not ring everybody's bell, but I don't know. So I think you've got to find an area that you're passionate about, and then get into the right environment.
Yeah.
I think making good decisions about where you're going to go is important.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to work for company X or company Y or whatever, and do some homework and make sure that you're going to be developed in that company, And there's some very good companies, and I would imagine there's some not so good companies.
Absolutely.
And you've got to make good decisions if you're going to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had 3 or 4 mentors who were all different, but all very helpful.
Yeah. How often would you speak to them?
I wasn't formal.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I
You
didn't
just pick
bring
up the phone if you
I
had a
didn't ring
query.
up
Or...
and say, look, I want a mentoring session
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Can you fit me in? So
Yeah.
it just happens.
Yeah.
And I'd go and see John Graham after I'd finished. He actually coached Auckland with me, so he's my assistant
Yeah.
for a couple of years. But I always had contact with him.
Yeah.
And if I thought if I had a challenge, if you like, I might go and have a Steinlager Pure with him, sit down with him, have a chat, and just chat it through, because the more you chat about these things, the greater clarity you get.
Absolutely.
And if you get people with wisdom, and he had wisdom,
Yeah.
he was much older than me,
Yeah.
and he'd been through a lot of experiences.
You mentioned in an interview I read that a philosophy your team had was the unexpected is always going to happen, so expect it to happen. And I think you said something about, Dan Carter might snap a leg, or so, just making sure that you've always got things in place to prepare for the unexpected. And how have you seen this? Because I thought that was quite a powerful philosophy, and I really took a lot away from it. But how do you think this philosophy has impacted the lives of players outside of the game and their personal lives, and seen them prosper because of it?
Well, we brought that strategy into the All Blacks because of the 2007 Rugby World Cup.
Yep.
We got beaten in a quarter-final, and
Against the French.
against the French,
Yeah.
and we couldn't handle the way the game was refereed.
Yeah.
So some of our guys froze. They choked on the field, and we were like, we had an excuse. You can't have an excuse.
Yeah.
We couldn't handle the referee. So out of that 2007, we were lucky to get reappointed. And so we brought in a strategy. The unexpected will happen, handle it. The unexpected will happen, handle it. So we got to the 2011 World Cup, and Daniel Carter rips the adductor tendon off the bone kicking goals, and that was the unexpected.
Yeah.
That was the initial unexpected. But I don't think if we hadn't had that strategy, which was talked about a lot, and various scenarios, losing a captain, or red card, or 2 red cards, or whatever. So we didn't know what the unexpected was going to be. So Carter was worth 20 points to us, probably 25 points to us. He's out of the tournament. No excuse mentality. So a guy named Colin Slade became number 10. He was in the squad. We had to bring Aaron Cruden in to replace Daniel Carter. Slade does the same thing in the next game. So we lose our 2 number 10s who started the Rugby World Cup in 2011. Then we got Beaver in, Steve Donald. And so those 2 things were very important. Richie McCaw had a broken metatarsal in his foot. Wow. Played for a month with a broken metatarsal. How he did that, I've got no idea. Driven, passionate, obsessed.
Yeah.
All of those things, fantastic. And so we got over, well, we smashed the French.
Yeah.
8-7. We won it despite some very difficult situations.
Yeah.
And I don't think we would have, unless we had discussed in depth that we're going to go through some difficult times as a group of players if we wanted to win that Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
And that's something we learnt from 2007, so you're growing, aren't you? We also learnt about the top 3 inches and how we could make that better, all right? So our mental skills were pretty important. So we brought in a psychiatrist, Kerry Evans, his name is, and he talked with the leadership group about choking and being on the job. Right, so the choking on one situation, what does the brain do when it chokes? What does the brain do when it's in the zone?
Yep.
We're functioning well. How do we stay in the zone and not choke? And so we developed some breathing and some triggers to stay in the zone.
Wow.
And we practiced that at training. So we put the guys under pressure, try to get them to lose it at training, start fighting and buggering around, choking, and to use the triggers to stay in the zone.
Yeah.
And we had names for those.
Yeah.
So it just became like catch, pass, catch, choke, zone, trigger, breathing.
Absolutely. And you use a lot of those techniques for you as well, because I know obviously after that loss to the French, you must have, that would have been a huge rock, a huge boulder. How did you stay grounded and how did you go through that adversity? You what, sorry?
Badly. But that was the result from that, So the unexpected strategy and the understanding brain biology and developing the skills, the mental skills to handle expectation and pressure resulted from the French test in the Rugby World Cup in 2007. I think you learn, you become more durable, more resilient by going through those experiences. You hate them at the time, but looking back, you think, what changed your life?
Yeah.
Those things change your life. They can destroy your bloody life.
Of course.
But we managed to survive and win. And I think those experiences in 2007 have been the backbone of this rugby team for a long time.
Wow.
Won 2 Rugby World Cups and may win 3.
Yeah.
But there's probably half the management still there that were with me in 2007. So most of the coaches and the management and Gilbert and Oka, as I said before, are all still there. And those experiences build a knowledge and some skills to go get better.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's honestly amazing. Just kind of hearing that, I'm just feeling inspired, probably like you boys as well.
I can see the boys are jumping out of their skin over there.
Yeah, this guy's having cold sweats, so yeah. But being one of the most successful coaches to one of the most successful sports team ever, you can clearly distinguish talent from special talent to other things. But anyway, my question is what do you think makes a great team or a great player? Is it just talent, or is a lot of it mindset, or even what's the percentage of balance? Obviously it's a bit of a loaded question, but what do you think it is? Is it like 50% skills, 50% mindset, or do you think that the people that have less skills but are very ambitious and goal driven rise above the others? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you got to have some talent. I hope Richie didn't watch this. But Richie wasn't the greatest athlete in the world, or the highly skilled athlete. But he's probably the most influential player over the last 20 years that played for New Zealand. And why? Because he was driven. Like, he's the most driven guy I've ever seen. And he overcome some adversities which a normal human being wouldn't have overcome. So playing in the 2011 Rugby World Cup with a broken metatarsal was almost...
crazy, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the word. Almost...
insane.
Yeah, insane will do. Thank you. We'll use insane. He's not insane. He's very bright.
Yeah.
And he's together. But so he was obsessed and passionate about doing everything he could to make sure we won in 2011. Like the medical staff, what they did to help him get through that is amazing, really. So I think obviously you're going to have a base of talent.
Yep.
And you're playing international rugby, so it has to be fairly high base of talent. But I think that dedication and that desire to be the best is massive.
Yeah, amazing. And why do you think New Zealand is so good at rugby?
Oh, well, it's our national sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
If Australia didn't play Aussie rules in rugby league, they could probably be quite competitive. So, no, it's our national sport. It's part of our upbringing, our heritage. The black jersey is highly respected, and the guys want to play in that jersey.
Yeah.
And we've got a good development pathway. I think there's some challenges right now. I think our game is becoming more like American football, where only the pros play. It hasn't got that bad yet, but it's going that way, and I think we need to introduce other forms of the game to keep young people playing, because I think it's, well, they can play any sport. As long as they're playing team sport, I think they develop a lot of different characteristics which are positive in their development as people. But I would introduce, they've got sevens, which is good. They've got 15s, which is good. Maybe a 10-a-side amateur under 85 international program. To keep, I know, and it can be something a wee bit different from that, obviously, but just keep young people interested in having a pathway to play top-level rugby. If you talk to the Sri Lankans or the Taiwan people or the Koreans or any, the Asians would be right into it. I don't know about Europe, but they'll be fantastic, and I think it'd keep a lot of young people in the game in New Zealand.
Interesting. Just kind of switching it up, and I know you talked about it earlier in the conversation around mental health, but I just want to hear your perspective on this, being, you know, obviously an influential leader, not only in sports but just in New Zealand in general. But what do you think? Firstly, why do you think mental health is so taboo and almost swept under the rug? And it's been like that for a while in New Zealand. And why do you think it is so? It's just such a problem in New Zealand at the moment. Like, why do so many people suffer from depression? And, you know, we got some of the highest suicide rates in the world. Obviously, it's a bit of a change in our conversation, but I just want to hear your perspective.
There's no short answer to this question. And my views maybe not be right, but I think social media's got a lot to do with it. So I think depression and people finding things difficult I think it's got a lot to do with social media. When I was your age, when I was young, there was no social media. So I think how you control that is very important going forward. I don't think our kids are as active as they used to be. And so I think playing sport helped them. And you lose playing sport occasionally. Right? And you have to handle disappointment. And I don't think a lot of these kids understand that that's part of life. Disappointment, failure is part of growing up and being better. If you don't experience those things, how are you gonna get better? I was on TV recently in Japan at the World Cup, and the question was asked, how will the new All Blacks feel who haven't been to a World Cup? They were playing South Africa in the first game, and I said they'll be shitting themselves, which got some attention. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did actually.
Now, I said that because I wanted the young people of this country to know that's normal.
Interesting.
That's normal behaviour. You know, I probably should have used a more correct term.
I think that's perfect.
But I just wanted to make an impression to the young kids watching that shitting yourself is okay. You know, being nervous and worrying about the game is normal behaviour.
Absolutely.
Sitting exams and being nervous is normal behaviour.
Definitely.
Playing for your local netball team and you're nervous is like my grandkids. You know, they run cross country. They're nervous. Why am I nervous? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be nervous. It's part of life.
Absolutely.
And I think I just don't know if young people understand that. They probably do. I'm probably just...
No, I think you're bang on.
I'm probably running away at the mouth here. And I think sport gives them that opportunity to experience those things and grow from those things and have good mates, you know, and enjoy what they're doing. And I wonder about the number of young people doing that today is decreasing. You know, they're playing less sport, looking at the screen more.
Of course.
And I wonder whether that's part of it.
Going back to the social media and, you know, sports and people being active and almost being a metaphor for life.
Yeah, well, as I was saying, I would employ a physical education teacher for all 400 primary school kids and get them active.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's going to make a difference. I just feel it. I think there's a huge connection between the physical and the mental.
Yeah.
Kids feeling good about themselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of our, and I'm not being critical, a lot of our primary school teachers are middle-aged women who have got responsibilities at home, and at the end of the day they go home and look after their own kids. And I just think and it wouldn't cost the country much money to do that, but he'd drop in the bucket, and I think it would help not only with the mental health but the physical health, the obesity, all of those things. So
no, definitely, it is definitely a serious issue.
Can we change the world here in this little conversation?
Yeah, we can.
Change the world?
Yeah, it all starts from conversations like this. Yeah, but I agree. I didn't even know, because I just recently bought a house out in Piha, and we didn't have internet for 5 days, 7 days, and I actually felt great. Came home, as opposed to going on the screen, I had to connect with my kids and my wife and just have actual conversations. And I think that's what a lot of people, they're just conversing with each other through screens, which is not natural, and you do feel like shit when you're just on a screen the whole time. So I think combining out with the physical is 100% bang on. And it's not rocket science. You don't need to always go and just take a pill or go see a psychiatrist.
Well, there's so much research about the connection between the physical and the mental.
Yeah, definitely. And do you
thousands of research topics on that. Been talked about for years. They just need to make it happen.
Absolutely. And do you, for players as well, do you discourage them from going on social media leading up to big events or anything for that exact reason? Because I can see nowadays a lot of them are more active on social media.
Oh yeah. Like social media's got its place, and I'm sure they promote the game through social media and all of those things, which are all very positive. And the guys have probably got their own lives and businesses that they're involved in, and that's positive too. But we try and encourage them to avoid social media in the rugby sense. Individually, their individual involvement in rugby and social media. Because I don't, when I was coaching, I didn't, unless we won by 100. I didn't listen to the radio, didn't watch TV, or didn't read. Like if we got beaten, I didn't watch any of that stuff. So you control your own environment. I think younger people find that more difficult. I just cut it out. If we won well, I'd read everything. Radio was going, TV was on. Shit was bloody good. But if it was a negative, nah. Cut it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It does get inside you, and it does start to really affect you without even. It's it's a bit of a silent killer when you start letting all that into your world. So,
have we got much longer?
Yeah, we probably got. We can close up now. So, but just closing question, kind of looking back on your life, what advice would you give to a 25-year-old with big dreams and ambitions, but for some reason something's holding them back? What advice would you give to this person to make something great of their life? Obviously, you said a lot tonight.
I've talked to a few guys who want to be professional rugby coaches, and they look at me and I say, "Well, you got to go out and do that, don't you? You got to go out and coach." Oh, that's a good idea. So actually doing the bloody job is important.
Taking action.
Taking action. Make it happen. Do what you want to do. As I said to you before, I think a lot of people in their first 20 years of life are preparing themselves for something, for some career, and they get to that point, and then they may go to an establishment which is not going to help them. They've wasted 20 years. I think it's very important to say, well, this is what I want to do, and who's going to give me the best chance for me to develop into something that I'm going to be proud of. So I think those decisions are hell of important. Make it happen.
Quite simple. Just get off the couch. Just go do it. Pick your rocks. I love it. Lastly,
there's no not rocket science, is it?
Yeah, absolutely not. Last question is who you picking for the final for the World Cup?
Well, as the draw is, I think the All Blacks will win. Mm-hmm. Just my gut feel. Yeah. I always think they're going to win, so that's not different. And I think they'll probably play South Africa.
Interesting. Yeah.
It looks at the moment they'll play Ireland if Japan keep winning. Mm-hmm. Ireland, England, South Africa. Yeah. That'll be the finals.
Interesting. Well, it's going to be interesting.
So I think they'll go through. I'll be surprised if they don't, but there's no guarantees. Yeah. And I would imagine that South Africa will be the other side.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for this. Really
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. Got a lot from it. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
All the best.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and found any type of value, please subscribe to our podcast, share with your friends, and give us a 5-star review on iTunes to be in the draw to win a $200 I Love Ugly gift voucher. We will be drawing a winner monthly. Good luck and see you on the next episode.